Imagine something the size of your thumb covered in razor-sharp spikes crawling across the ocean floor 500 million years ago, and scientists today still can't figure out what the hell it was related to. Meet Wiwaxia. A creature so weird, so perfectly armored, so evolutionarily confusing that it's been driving paleontologists crazy since the day it was discovered. This isn't some massive apex predator. This isn't a dinosaur with teeth the size of bananas. This is a tiny, spiky oval that might be your great-great-great times a billion grandfather, or might be nothing at all. A total evolutionary dead end. Nobody knows. And that's what makes it absolutely fascinating. Let's set the stage. We're talking about the Cambrian period, roughly 505 million years ago. To put that in perspective, this is before trees existed, before fish had jaws, before anything with a backbone walked, swam, or did anything remotely recognizable. The Cambrian was when life basically said, you know what, let's get weird. This was the era paleontologists call the Cambrian explosion, and explosion is the perfect word. In just a few million years, life went from mostly blobs and worms to, holy core, what is that thing? The ocean became a biological free-for-all, an evolutionary mad science lab where nature was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. Trilobites with compound eyes. Anomalocarids, a shrimp monster the size of your arm with circular jaws that looked like something out of a horror movie. Hallucigenia, which was named that way because scientists thought they were hallucinating when they first tried to figure out which end was the head. And then there was Wiwaxia. Think of it like this. If the Cambrian Ocean were a medieval battlefield, Wiwaxia would be that one soldier who showed up in full plate armor, holding a shield, covered in spikes, and just slowly walking forward. Not attacking anyone, not running, just existing as the most over-defended thing on the seafloor. Its body was oval-shaped, about 1 to 2 inches long, roughly the size of a chicken nugget, if we're being honest. But instead of breading, it was covered in overlapping scales made of minerals, like tiny roof tiles made of stone. And sticking up from its back, rows of long, sharp spines. Picture a hedgehog, but underwater, armored, and from an alien planet. Now you might be thinking, okay, spikes, cool. Lots of animals have spikes. But here's the thing. This was early. Like, really early. Most creatures at this time were soft, squishy, easy pickings. Predators were just starting to figure out how to hunt. And Wiwaxia shows up with full body armor and a spear collection on its back like it knew what was coming. It's like showing up to a food fight with a riot shield.
To really understand how ancient Wiwaxia is, let's zoom out for a second. 505 million years ago, the Earth didn't look anything like it does today. There were no continents as we know them, no Atlantic Ocean, no Pacific. Just weird, scattered land masses drifting around in a planetary game of bumper cars. The climate? Warm? Tropical? The oceans? Shallow, murky, filled with creatures that would make H.R. Geiger look unimaginative. This was before the first plants colonized land, before insects.
Before amphibians crawled out of the water. Before anything had a spine. The most advanced life forms were things like trilobites and weird shrimp relatives that we can barely classify today. And in this chaotic, experimental, anything-goes ocean, Wiwaxia was just vibing, crawling along the seafloor, probably munching on algae or detritus, living its best armored life. But here's the kicker. Wiwaxia didn't last. It went extinct. No descendants. No modern relatives that we know of. It existed for a brief window of geological time, left behind some gorgeous fossils in places like the Burgess Shale in Canada, and then vanished. Like a band that released one legendary album and then broke up. Wiwaxia was first discovered in one of the most famous fossil sites on Earth, the Burgess Shale in British Columbia, Canada. This place is basically paleontology's greatest hits album. It's a site where, thanks to a perfect storm of mudslides and mineral-rich water, soft-bodied creatures were preserved in exquisite detail. We're talking about fossils so good you can see their guts, their tiny bristles, the individual segments of their bodies. It's like nature hit the save button on an entire ecosystem. When paleontologist Charles Walcott stumbled upon the Burgess Shale in 1909, he thought he'd found the jackpot, and he had. Wiwaxia was among the treasures, but at first nobody really knew what to make of it. It looked like someone had taken a slug, dipped it in armor, and stuck toothpicks all over it. Walcott did his best. He classified it. He studied it. He moved on. But the mystery was just beginning. Fast forward a few decades. Scientists start comparing Wiwaxia to modern animals. And that's when things get spicy. Some paleontologists look at those overlapping scales and say, wait a minute, that looks like a chaetoderm. Chaetoderms are a group of weird worm-like mollusks that live today. They're covered in tiny mineral scales, just like Wiwaxia. So, case closed, right? Wiwaxia is an early mollusk, ancestor of snails, clams, squids. Done. Not so fast. Other scientists look at the body plan, the symmetry, the segmentation, the way the spines are arranged, and they say, nope, this is more like an annelid cow. Annelids are segmented worms. Think earthworms, leeches, things that are divided into repeating sections. And then a third group shows up and says, actually, maybe it's neither. Maybe it's something completely unique, a branch of the evolutionary tree that went nowhere, a one-hit wonder. This debate has been raging for decades. Papers are published, arguments are made, fossils are re-examined under electron microscopes, and still, nobody can agree. It's like trying to figure out if a platypus is a bird, a mammal, or a reptile. Except the platypus has been dead for 500 million years. Let's talk about those spines for a second. Because they're weird. Most armored animals today have spines that are either A, part of their skeleton, like a porcupine's quills, or B, external structures that grow out of their skin, like a hedgehog. Wiwaxia's spines? Neither. They're made of the same mineral material as its scales, calcium carbonate and other compounds, but they're arranged in rows that don't quite match any modern animal. Some are long and blade-like, others are shorter and stouter. They're not random, but they're not perfectly symmetrical either. It's like evolution was trying out a new design and just stopped halfway through. Some scientists think the spines were for protection. Makes sense. If you're a slow-moving blob in an ocean full of anomalocarids, basically the Cambrian equivalent of a velociraptor, you want to be as unappetizing as possible. But other scientists think the spines might have had another purpose. Maybe they helped Wiwaxia anchor itself to the seafloor. Maybe they were sensory organs. Maybe they were just for show, like a peacock's tail, but underwater and made of rock. We don't know. And honestly, that's the fun part. Here's another fun mystery. We're not even 100% sure where Wiwaxia's mouth was. Seriously, most fossils don't preserve soft tissue. They preserve hard parts, shells, bones, teeth, scales. Wiwaxia's scales and spines, beautifully preserved. Its internal organs, gone. Its mouth, probably gone. Scientists think it had a feeding structure on the underside of its body, maybe a radula, a tongue-like organ covered in tiny teeth, which is something mollusks use to scrape algae off rocks. Some fossils show hints of this, but it's not definitive. So we have a creature that we can't classify, with spines we don't fully understand, and a mouth we can only guess at. At this point, Wiwaxia is basically the Bigfoot of the Cambrian. In 2015, a team of scientists published a paper that they thought would settle the debate once and for all. They found new Wiwaxia fossils in China, in a site called the Chengjiang Biota. These fossils were even older than the Burgess Shale specimens, and they were gorgeously preserved. The team used high-resolution imaging to examine the scales in microscopic detail. They compared the structure to modern mollusks and annelids. They ran computer models. They did the math. And their conclusion? Wiwaxia was probably a mollusk. Probably. Not definitely. Probably. The scientific community's response? Cool, but we're still not convinced. Because that's how paleontology works. You find a fossil, you study it, you propose a theory, and then 50 other scientists show up and say, yeah, but what about this? It's a beautiful, frustrating, never-ending puzzle. Let's rapid fire some bonus Wiwaxia facts, because this creature deserves it. Wiwaxia means Wiwax Mountain in Latin, named after a mountain near the Burgess Shale. Not the most creative name, but hey, it's better than spiky thing number 4. Some Wiwaxia fossils show signs of predation, bite marks, broken spines. Proof that even with all that armor, something still tried to eat it. Nature always finds a way. The largest Wiwaxia ever found was about 2 inches long. The smallest, less than half an inch. Basically, they ranged from small to tiny. Wiwaxia lived alongside Hallucigenia, Opabenia, and other Cambrian weirdos. If you could film a nature documentary in that ocean, it would look like a fever dream directed by Guillermo del Toro. There's a modern animal called a chiton, a type of mollusk with overlapping shell plates that looks vaguely similar to Wiwaxia. But even that comparison is shaky. Chitons don't have spines, and they're definitely not segmented. Wiwaxia is a reminder that evolution doesn't follow a script. It doesn't care about making sense. It just tries things. Some experiments work, some fail spectacularly, and some, like Wiwaxia, work for a while, leave behind a mystery, and then disappear into the fossil record. We don't know if Wiwaxia was an ancestor of mollusks. We don't know if it was a dead-end experiment. We don't even know exactly how it lived, what it ate, or how it moved. And that's okay. Because science isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions. And Wiwaxia? It's been asking questions for 505 million years. Every fossil we find is a piece of a story that started long before humans, long before mammals, long before anything we'd recognize as normal. It's a story written in stone, in scales, in spines that once protected a creature smaller than your phone. And that story is still being told. In labs, in universities, in arguments between paleontologists who will probably never fully agree. But that's the beauty of it. The ocean that Wiwaxia crawled through is gone. The world it knew is gone. The creatures it lived alongside are gone. But its mystery remains, frozen in time, waiting for someone to finally crack the code. And until that day comes, Wiwaxia will keep doing what it does best, confusing the hell out of us, one spiky fossil at a time. Because some secrets don't get solved, they just get more interesting. And in the endless archives of evolution's greatest experiments, one thing is certain: the strangest chapters are still being written, here in the lost bestiary.